Chapter 1. Listening. Talking Cockney.
I live in London, near Baker Street. Quite a posh area, you might be saying to yourself, but maybe if you heard my voice, you wouldn't think so. I'm not saying I'm a true Cockney, born under the sound of Bow Bells, but I do not speak a perfect example of the Queen's English either. The Queen's English? What is it really? Does it mean that we all have to go around talking as if we had a bad cold? I don't hear many people following her example anyway. You could say I had a slightly Cockney accent, when talking with friends that is. When I'm talking to my friends, I can be myself. I don't have to impress anyone like a prospective employer, for example. I interrupt them, we have arguments, but it's me, my real voice. If I suddenly changed to a rather posher accent, my friends would either think I was just pretending or that I was getting above myself. It's different when I'm with my mum though. When I'm talking to her, I remember not to drop so many H's, or use slang, as my mum says it sounds terrible. I try to be more respectful in the way I speak to my mum, as she's always telling me to speak properly. But what does she mean by this? She comes from Ireland, and the way she speaks is far from perfect. But she doesn't understand that my voice is typical of where I live. Accents and voices of all kinds make up the English language, so who can say one of them is bad? Americans talk how they do because of where they live, and so do Irish people and people from Yorkshire. So how can my mum and others be so disapproving of the Cockney accent? It's for your own good. Nobody will want to employ you after hearing your voice. This statement is one I hear almost every day from my mum. But why should the way I speak matter? It doesn't mean that I'm any less intelligent than a person who speaks properly. A person reading the news, for example, would still be reading the same news whether she was speaking with a posh accent or a Cockney one. When talking to teachers or adults other than my parents, my speech changes for the third time. Instead of my usual chatty self, I speak awkwardly and am very conscious of what I say and the way I say it. I used to muddle sentences and forget what I was going to say, but as I got older, I'm gradually overcoming this handicap. I think it all started when I was younger, as I used to have a speech impediment. Nothing I ever said sounded right, so instead I decided not to speak much at all. I became very shy and withdrawn, and because I didn't mix much with other children because of the impediment, I became very lonely. Nobody can fully understand a situation like this unless they've gone through it themselves. I was teased by a certain group of ignorant juniors, and so I got this idea into my head that I was different, unlike other children. The only time I ever felt at ease was at bedtime, when I used to imagine that I could turn the light out and become invisible. This affected most of my younger life, but I'm happy to say that my speech has improved greatly since then. It has taught me two very important lessons though. Firstly, that nobody is perfect. But more importantly, that it doesn't matter how a person speaks or how they dress or walk, it's the person that matters. People are judged by their voices, which, as I have experienced, is wrong. Some people are under the impression that it's a status thing. If you're poor, you'll have a very Cockney, common accent, and if you're rich, you'll speak very genteelly and politely. But does this mean that all Cockneys are rowdy, rude, ill-mannered thugs, and rich people are sweetness itself? Everybody has a different voice and different ways of speaking. The way you speak is as natural as the way you walk or eat, and nobody has the right to criticise it. I don't think I should have to change the way I talk to pass a job interview, as, unless I was going to be a speech therapist, it would be irrelevant to my job. I speak English, which is a language. Language is a means of talking, communicating, being understood. People do understand me, so why should it matter? If we all spoke the same, life would be very boring. We would lose our personalities, and if this happened, we would lose our individuality. Nobody has the right to comment on the way a person talks, as their speech reveals their character. And if you take away a person's character, you're left with nothing but skin and bones.